Morning or afternoon now. Happy Monday. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope we're all trying to remain as fluid and positive is not the right word, because sometimes we have to feel some of the lower stuff at times, but motivated and self-conscious and aware enough to be able to navigate through these slightly interesting and turbulent and somewhat cyclically repeating on a micro level times that we're living in. So if you're going into lockdown in the UK, in England rather, then I wish you all the best for that. Good luck for that. We're just supposedly coming out of one in Wales in a week, although we've not been told yet what we are to expect regarding laws and legislations. Now, whatever's going on out there, like I've always said in these videos, it's a grand opportunity to help us understand and become more self-aware of how some of the darker forces in our lives, some of the egoic forces in our lives are essentially stealing and vampiring our consciousness and our energy and our vitality. And I was contemplating an interesting example the other day at how tricky and how insidious the ego can be. In certain traditions, the ego's depicted as a coyote, okay, like a Wiley Coyote. Always wants to play tricks on you and will always keep chasing you and never want to leave you, right? Like the Roadrunner and Wiley Coyote, yeah? And we have to be very aware of how we are doing our work, because anyone who's attempting to work on them a little bit more consciously rather than just allowing karma to process them needs to understand that the ego will never give up. Okay, the ego will never give up. You cannot eliminate your ego by yourself. You need divine intervention. You need help. You need the Divine Mother, Shakti, to help you do it. Because it's so tricky that at times we think we're getting somewhere with our work, when in fact we're actually just falling into another ego trap. So let's use the example of the ego of pride. I'm not going to be doing a long video here, so I'm just going to take this issue and just help you contemplate it going forward. So the ego of pride has an equal and opposite polarity called shame. Okay, and when you're feeling shame, or when you're in shame, you have low self-esteem, you have low self-confidence, you are essentially you have no self-worth. Okay, and that in itself is a very weakening state. Okay, it sucks you dry of your vitality, it sucks you dry of your consciousness, it keeps you small, and it's a way of stealing energy. Okay, so whatever ego is operating within that state of being, let's call it the ego of pride, because shame is a polarity of that, then that ego is operating within you when you are feeling shame. So let's say, for example, someone who feels a lot of shame, low self-confidence, low self-worth, gets into certain addictive behaviors. Could be alcohol, could be drugs, could be sex, could be anything, right? Just to try and feel a bit better, trying to lift and momentarily and temporarily escape from that feeling of absolute lack of worth, lack of self-esteem. And they spiral further down the cycle of shame and self-worth to the point where they might hit rock bottom and cry for help. More often than not, we're stubborn beings, us humanoids, and it takes a lot for us to actually want to It's a cry for help. And whoever that cry for help is to, it could be to angels, it could be to demons, it could be to God, it could be to whatever you want to cry out to. It could be to another person, it could be to a therapist, a healer. At that point, there is a decision and a commitment within that individual soul to want to do some work, want to come out of this spiral of destruction, this very destructive, chaotic energy of shame. And so, great, they might go see a therapist, they might go see someone like me, do some healing work, fantastic, do some psychological work, do some shadow work. And that might inspire these individuals to energetically cleanse themselves a little bit more, change their lifestyles a little bit more, get some motivation and willpower, learn a healing art themselves, maybe do some Reiki, reorganize their house, take up a sport, take up a hobby, get a better job, start earning some better income, and actually build a better physical existence for themselves. And that's all great. That's all good. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. But as the individual does that, their level of self-esteem will naturally grow. Self-esteem, self-confidence. Okay? So all that's happened in that scenario is that the pendulum has swung from shame to a higher level of self-esteem. Okay? It's the same ego. It's the ego of pride. So as much as that's a positive swing in a direction which is healthier and provides a more sustainable foundational position for the individual to go even further with their work, that ego has not been eliminated. That ego has not been comprehended or understood. It's just come round the back door, right? And with a smile on its face, it goes, "Oh, look at me, sort myself out." You know, and that's where a lot of this kind of guru syndrome comes from, he says, doing videos on spirituality. That's where all this kind of guru mythomania comes from, where we may think we've sorted ourselves out. We may think we're getting somewhere on the ladder of liberation and enlightenment, where in fact actually we're just reinforcing another aspect of the same pendulum, be it positive or negative. Okay? So we really, 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 really have to be very aware of how insidious these egos operate in. Okay? And how, or these demons, whatever you want to call them, because they're all inside, right? How do these things trick you on the back door? How do these things keep capturing your consciousness, your awareness, your energy, and your vitality? Are you really liberating yourself, or are you just creating a different prison for yourself? Okay? And take another example, you know, the whole mask wearing thing at the moment with people wearing their masks with pride, ego. Some people wear their masks, they don't really want to wear their masks, they feel a little bit shameful wearing it, and it's like, oh, I'm just doing it because I have to. You know, that's kind of guilt, right? That's ego. Some people are like, I'm helping you, okay? I'm saving you from COVID. Pride again, okay? And we have to get to a point where whatever we're doing, we are maintaining a somewhat more detached and neutral outlook. So, yes, we might have been raging drug addicts in the past. We may have been raging alcoholics. We may have been manic depressives. We may have been shopaholics, sexaholics, whatever we were or still are, whatever, no judgment, right? And we swing to another side of the pendulum. So we've gone from that level to another level, right? Which is a more positive one, a more healthy one. If we're still stuck or identified with that, if we identify our little self with, ooh, look at me, look how far I've come, look how well I've done, And this isn't meant to be criticism. This isn't meant to be something to say, you're not doing well at all. You don't get it. None of us get it. All right. We're just trying to raise awareness here. I'm just trying to raise awareness to where we can create positive traps for ourselves as well as negative traps for ourselves. There's still a trap. It's still a trap. It's still a pendulum that's swinging, and you're feeding it that energy. Imagine that pendulum as an ego, as a demon. It wants your energy. It needs your energy to maintain its momentum, to maintain its existence, its movement within you. Okay? So you have to meditate, you have to contemplate and understand and comprehend the intentions and the way you're placing your identity into what you are doing, what you are becoming, okay? And the more we identify with what we become, oh look, I've moved from eating red meat to full veganism in 3 months, aren't I great? Okay, still an I there, still an ego there, yeah? There could be states of consciousness within you that are genuinely free of ego, that help propel the rest of those states of consciousness which aren't free of ego in you to do the work, okay? But the trick is to actually step off the pendulum. And to step off the pendulum, you've got to know you're on it in the first place. You can't deny that you're on it in the first place. So it's about being brutally honest with yourself. And every time there's a little trigger, every time there's a situation in your life where there's even the slightest emotional charge, be it from a positive perspective, oh, that makes me feel really great, or oh, that makes me feel bad, or oh, I feel proud of doing that, or I feel shameful of doing that, or I get angry because of that, or I get frustrated because of that, yeah, or I get righteous, yeah. So there's another pendulum, okay. So there's righteous anger, there's the anger pendulum, there's the violent anger, and then there's the righteous anger, okay. It's still all part of the dark side. Yeah? It's all part of the great force of creation. The great divine mother manifests as all these things for us to learn and grow through. Okay, so the Divine Mother can only eliminate these aspects where your consciousness is trapped in once you comprehend it. Because once you comprehend it, you shine a light on it. Ooh, I can see you now. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I did all that work, and yeah, I'm living a really, pure life, yeah? I got fairy lights on my head and all the right bling and jewelry, and I'm doing my yoga 3 times a day, and I'm chanting my mantras, and I'm raking myself in the shower, yeah? I'm doing all this great stuff, and I feel really proud of myself. I feel, this is me. I've identified myself as this, okay? There's no humility in that. There's no humbleness in that. And we have to remember that whichever walk of life or whichever side of the pendulum we are on or we have come from, because it's just as easy to be on that side of the pendulum and fall back down to the other side, okay? Yeah, the pedestalized ego tends to take a bit of a tumble. But it doesn't care because the ego can still feed off either side of that pedestal or that pendulum, yeah? So awareness is key in all of this. Awareness of where you're giving your consciousness, and whether you are understanding your consciousness to be trapped in a false sense of I, or whether you're understanding your consciousness to be truly liberated and be able to witness and see what's going on phenomenally in your life and within your substrates, within your mental body, emotional body, your vital body, and your physical body, okay, which are all the lunar kingdoms of nature, these bodies that we exist, that consciousness exists within, are just that. They are given to us by the Divine Mother, okay? We are not free of the Divine Mother. We are not free of creation and karma and phenomenal existence until we move into our causal existence, until we move a little bit further up let's not use the word up, a little bit further in to our true essence, our divine soul, where we start to marry that human part of us, that the divine mother, with the essence of our spiritual nature, our causal nature. Some people call it a divine marriage. Some people like to class it as a masculine and feminine kind of union. You know, in Kabbalistic traditions, they talk about the Merkabah, the two tetrahedrons kind of forming together and creating the star tetrahedron, Star of David. So where we're still trapped, where our vitality and our consciousness and our attention and our intention is still trapped in building identity, a false sense of identity, an impermanent sense of identity, or feeding an ego, we're not liberating ourselves. We're just creating another prison for ourselves. We can still, from a liberated position, really enjoy life, right? But see it for what it is more objectively, rather than experiencing life from inside a more constricted prison-like environment where we are more subjected to these forces of ego and nature, and we are more, we float around like a feather being whipped around all over the place, instead of actually having some conscious and aware co-creative ability within our lives. So it's just something to think about. Yeah, once we move out of these ego natures and we step into more powerful states of consciousness, like serenity, calmness, joy, real joy. Joy shouldn't need anything outside of you to make you happy, okay? To make you feel joyful. Joy is a state of being, okay, which requires no identity, okay? Then we start to free that consciousness into more powerful states. So to become empowered means to become really aware of which pendulums you're still swinging in. Yeah, which pendulums you're still swinging in. And if you're on a real positive cycles of all these positive pendulums, positive pride, righteous anger, yeah, tantric lust, same thing, yeah, motivation to do and identify with your doing rather than apathy, all these things, okay, then yes, you might be creating more positive karma for you, but you're still trapped in karma. And I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do to try and balance your life, but ultimately the middle point, the balancing point, is where the pendulum rests and stops. Yeah, so let's get my little bead, my mala out, okay, and swing it. Pride, shame, pride, shame, pride, shame, pride, shame. And you know what? I'll go, ooh. Self-esteem, high self-esteem, low self-esteem, high self-esteem, low self-esteem, high self-esteem, low self-esteem. So this is my pendulum of pride. Yeah? And once I've realized I'm still trapped on the pendulum, I can start to observe it. And as I observe it, I'm not giving it energy. And therefore it stops. It stops. And it gives you time to contemplate and understand how and comprehend how you give your power to it, you give your consciousness to it, you give your awareness to it, and how you identify with that ego. So it's a lot of work to do to be on the conscious path of shadow work, the conscious path of liberation, the conscious path of living a purposeful and joyous and motivated life, which ultimately grows the soul and not feeds these egos. Okay? Not feeds these egos. The more energy you give to the dark side, the more you strengthen the dark side, right? But the dark side and the light side operate together to form a middle way. Yeah? The path. Some traditions call it the path of the Bodhisattva, the path of getting out. Christ said, walking through the eye of a needle. Yeah, it's like trying to put a camel through the eye of a needle. It's very difficult to walk that path. It's like a razor's edge. The razor's edge path is, hold on a minute. Too much self-esteem there. Hold on a minute. Not enough self-esteem there. Yeah. And now here I am in balance, and here I can see my consciousness bottled up in this ego of pride that's just feeding off me. So yeah, things to be aware of. Okay, as you go forward. See you at the next video.